Can you remake one of gaming's most celebrated titles? Well, that's the challenge that Capcom is facing with this remake of Resident Evil 4. Depending on who you ask, the OG RE4 is one of the most perfect games ever made. The idea of remaking it seems like an almost impossible task, not to mention living up to the legacy that it has. Following in the footsteps of their other remakes, Capcom is giving it their best shot with Resident Evil 4 Remake. But can it only live up to the past, or does it surpass it? Let's take a look in this review. Resident Evil 4 was a massive turning point for the franchise and for gaming in general. It's one of the most action-packed, fun, and cheesy shooters ever made. The question I had going in is how much of this can be enhanced, changed, and ultimately kept. Without much more preamble, I'll easily say this game nailed everything they needed to do, not only to be a great Resident Evil game, but also to place itself among other gaming greats. Probably one of my favorite parts of this game is the story. As a massive fan of the series, 4 always felt like an outlier. Stuff kinda just happened in the OG and it lacked a lot of the awesome bouts of context and lore that the others featured. Now though, they took the time to recreate the story into something that feels vastly more complete. We get more of the characters, motivations, and even backgrounds this time around. Something I've always wanted out of Resident Evil 4.
I can see you're thinking. Bet you've been in spots like this before, huh? I guess you're here looking for someone. One more guess. Maybe some missing señorita? Young girl?
While the events of Leon saving the president's daughter are basically the same, everything surrounding it just feels a lot more fleshed out. We finally get to see some of what Luis is up to when he wanders off. We get to see a bit more of Ada's personality beyond her mysteriousness. Even Ashley is more than just an annoying, snooty companion that we have to take care of. It all expanded in meaningful ways that I love to see. Best of all are all the added lore drops. RE has always had files to add context to the events and the characters in them, something that was almost entirely abandoned in the OG. Now they are littered all over the place and they give so much more information about this event that I was really gushing over each file. Best of all, some of the best ones are hidden in places with treasure, making it doubly rewarding to seek them out. I was never really curious about who or what the Verdugo was or how Ramon became under Sadler's control, but I definitely enjoyed learning all the backstory to these events. And yes, if you're wondering, many of the cheesy one-liners and silly Easter eggs are here in their full glory for players to find. The creators had to have known that this was such a huge part of the appeal for Resident Evil 4 that they all had to be here. And be sure to try out all the classic ones, as well as being on the lookout for some new ones too. Exploration is rewarding and encouraged too, with massive amounts of hidden goodies to find. Not only are treasures to sell littered throughout the game, but there's also tons of items too. While you can simply press forward with the game, it gives you a lot of incentive to stop, look at the map, and decide if you want to run back and grab that missing piece of treasure. Thankfully, the game has a handful of side quests to do for a variety of rewards. Most can be done as you go along, but occasionally some will ask you to revisit old areas. What I like most about these was the timing that they appear. Going back can feel like a pain in some games, but when a quest asked me to go back, there were sometimes new enemies or items to find as well. I felt rewarded beyond just doing the quest. Once again, it's a really positive point. Gameplay is a continuation of the style made for Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes from years prior. This works really well here and it feels natural. Movement is appropriate, but it has some weight to it as well. Aiming and shooting is solid as expected too, with a variety of weapons all having their own characteristics to keep things fun. Since there's a wide variety of enemies in Resident Evil 4, you'll need to be prepared to fight off whatever comes your way. While most are human-esque enemies, it is Resident Evil and you'll go up against all kinds of monsters and amazingly designed bosses. But it's not just the enemy variety that's good, it's the situations it puts you in. RE4 does something amazing where it rarely puts you in the same situation twice. There's always some kind of variable to each room or enemy formation to keep things interesting. The variety of weapons sees a lot of the old favorites like the Red 9 and the bolt-action sniper rifle return in their full glory. There are a few extra hidden ones throughout the game to fatten up the already iconic arsenal, so be on the lookout for those as well. Like I said, they all have their own feel and charm, so choosing what ultimately is best for you comes down to simply what you like in each category. A big change this time around is the knife mechanics. The knife is both an offensive and defensive weapon. It can be used as a standalone weapon to slash or stab enemies, and if an enemy is down, you can land a final blow to take them out without having to slash at them repeatedly like in the old days to save some ammo. Speaking of ammo, I was surprised to see a small change here. In the OG, ammo kind of felt like it was everywhere. Now though, it seems like ammo isn't exactly scarce, but it's definitely pared back a bit, making each encounter a standoff with your remaining resources. I never exactly ran out in the moment, but I never had vast amounts of ammo either. It's a great change that keeps the intensity of each area high. A part of the reason for this change is that you can now craft ammo with gunpowder and resources. Making your own lets you influence what you want to use and when, but once again, you never really have enough that your cup is running over. Where things get nutty though is the parry. Now Leon can parry a wide amount of attacks that come his way with his knife. Axes, maces, knives, arrows, dynamite, and more can all be parried. This new mechanic is not only flashy and effective, but it's also necessary in some cases if you want to avoid damage. Thankfully, it's not hard to do in most cases, and you can simply hold the button to activate it. That said, if you do it with perfect timing, you can get a perfect parry that leaves the enemy vulnerable. It's such a neat and flashy mechanic, but it also feels like a natural fit for our hero.
Spread out.
Okay.
Ashley this time around is much more manageable than I expected. She follows along with Leon in two different ways, a close and far formation. More often than not, she can navigate enemies on her own well enough, but she still needs protecting. Instead of having a health meter, she can actually take about 2 or so hits before dying, and before that happens, she goes into a downed state where Leon can rescue her. I really like these changes simply because she's less of an X factor in encounters, though she does sometimes wander in front of stray shots, so you need to be careful. I also like her personality this time around. The writing here really lets her warm up naturally to both Leon and for the player. Instead of being an annoying companion, she seems like a true partner by the time the credits are rolling. Treasure maps return too. Most of them can be picked up along the way, but you'll need a pretty good eye or the treasure maps to locate all of them. These treasures net you much needed money to buy supplies and the ever important upgrades for your weapons. As expected, gems can be inserted into certain ones to increase their value. This time around, however, there's a bonus mechanic. Certain gem combinations net you extra money, so trying to maximize this for each trade-in is a neat little extra thing to consider before you sell. The game's economy is just as fun to experience as well. As you find and sell treasures, you can upgrade your weapons and inventory space as expected. The difference in how they feel from start to finish in their upgrade trees is pretty neat, and it just feels rewarding to see evolve as you play. Another new addition is case customization. Now, there are several cases that can be equipped, and each has a minor effect on things like increasing the frequency of certain drops. Also, charms can be added to the cases, and these also have their own effects too. Things like increased health gain on herb usage or discounts in the shop can be gained as you find and discover them during your playtime. And if you're wondering, yes, the shooting minigame returns in all of its frustrating glory. This challenge mode can be done at various points in the game, and it rewards tokens that are needed to unlock the charms. While I am personally terrible at it, if you're good enough, you'll get plenty of rewards for your efforts. And speaking of rewards, I was the most happy to see the post-game unlockables return as expected. RE titles love giving players reason to run back through them multiple times, and it's no different here. Not only are there models and artwork, and a couple of costumes, but now there are small accessories like hats, glasses, and helmets to unlock too. But if you're looking for something a bit more tangible, several secret weapons are there waiting for you too. But what else is there really to say? Resident Evil 4 Remake is kind of perfect in my mind. From start to end, it feels like both a remake that wanted to celebrate everything the original was, and also enhance the areas that could be changed as well. Shinji Mikami always said that he didn't really like the story that he made for Resident Evil 4, and he hoped that any remake would just go nuts in fixing it. And this honestly really does. It adds so much needed meat to the scenario that I can only praise it. The very small amount of cuts that just feel perfectly fine when compared to the variety of remix locations and added areas that this game has. The gameplay is just as fun and rewarding to play too. The combat and situations are polished and well thought out, with a variety of ways to tackle any one situation. Exploration is rewarding and worthwhile, not just for the gold, but also for the lore drops too. Weapons are unique and bound to have each player choosing their own personal favorites. Enemy designs are grotesque and awesome, just like you could always count on with a Capcom game. The gameplay is just as fun and rewarding to play too. The combat and situations are polished and well thought out, with a variety of ways to tackle any one situation. Exploration is rewarding and worthwhile, not just for the gold, but also for the lore drops too. Weapons are unique and bound to have each player choosing their own personal favorites. Enemy designs are grotesque and awesome, just like you could always count on with a Capcom game. Resident Evil 4 Remake is everything I personally wanted it to be and more. It feels familiar and nostalgic for anyone who's played the OG, but it's also fresh and extremely worthwhile. Somehow Capcom knocked this out of the park in a way that you can only dream of. If you're an RE fan, it's an easy game to recommend. If you were ever wondering what all the hype is about, you will not be disappointed in this fun, beefy, and downright awesome game. That's all for this review. Be sure to like, sub, and check back for more game reviews and more content. I am Valkerion, and I hope to see you again next time. Be safe out there and have a good day. Also, these will be uploaded to TikTok. If you're watching on TikTok, be sure to hit the link for the YouTube video. If you're watching on YouTube, hopefully I can remember to put a link into the TikTok version as well. Once again, thank you for watching this review, and I hope to see you again next time.
Then come, Sancho Panza. Let us rescue the Princess Dulcinea.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
Hey, that was my dance. Okay, we hurry, I get it.